Hi, and welcome again to another session of our online training for DSAS Package 1, Distribution System Loss Segregator, or commonly known as DSL Segregator. Now, for this session, we'll be showing you a test run and the sample results of the Intersheet checker, which is one of the four modules of data science checkers. So for this case, we'll be using a test data, and I deliberately made some errors on the data so the program will be able to detect these errors and report them and show us the cause of these errors. So I'll just be showing you first the errors that I did on the data. We will see later on how the program will report them. So first we go to the customer data. So here is a sample error. So in customer ID, I added underscore A on one of the customer IDs. So the program will see that this customer ID will not have a corresponding entry on the customer energy consumption data and also on the service drop data. So the program will compare the entries in the customer data with the customer energy consumption data, and it will report that this is missing. Also, we have a customer type error here. So before it was RES, but I added the character 2 at the end of the customer type. So the program will report this as an error because RES2 will not be found in the load curve data. So we can see there is no RES2 customer type here. So the program will see that this customer type does not appear in the load curve data. Now also in our customer energy consumption data, we have here the billing code. All of the values here is 2009-05, but I changed this one entry to 2009-07. As we know, this billing period code refers to the billing cycle data, this one. So the program will report that this billing period code does not appear in the billing cycle data. So again, this will be reported as an error later on. So we also have the load curve data. So originally it was COM for commercial customers. So I changed it to COM2. So the program will compare this to the customer data entries for customer type. So those entries with COM here will be flagged as errors because the program will not be able to find this customer type on the load curve data table. Now another error I made is on the primary line overhead data. So we have here a bus ID. The original entry is this one, PRI-EN 0011BBD6. So I added the characters _1 on the bus ID, and the program will see this as an error because it will compare all of the bus IDs in every worksheet to the bus data here. So the program will not see that bus ID with _1 on this table. So it will be flagged as an error. And lastly, I made a change in secondary service drop data. I added the characters _2 on one of the customer IDs here. So the program will report that this ID not be seen on the customer data and customer energy consumption data. So basically the program checks the relationships between worksheets which are related through one or more parameters in their data. So let's save this data and then let's run the data on the Intersheet check. So again, we open the DSAS Package 1 main interface. We go to Data Science Checker and then we press the corresponding button for Intersheet check. So what we need to do is just to select that test data we saved a while ago and then simulated in this program. So for my case, it's located at drive D test data. So just press the run button. That's it. So the program already inspected the data and it produced a report of the errors of that data. So we view the report by clicking this button. So this is the report of the Intersheet check of our test data. There are no interline check errors for this data. But scrolling down, we will see that there are intersheet check errors for our data. So first, the comparison between the customer data and consumption data, there is one error here. So let's view this one. It says that the data sheet being checked is the customer data and it's being checked against the customer energy consumption data. So the result says it cannot find the following customer IDs in the customer energy consumption sheet. So what it actually did is it searched all of the customer IDs in the customer data in the customer energy consumption data, and it found one ID entry which is not present in the customer energy consumption. So this was the one which we changed a while ago. We added the entry underscore A, and it's found in row number 5 in the datasheet being checked, which is this one. Okay, so we go back to the summary. Again, the program checks two related worksheets, and first it checked customer data with consumption. Now it is checking the consumption with the customer data. There will be an error because of the entry we changed in the customer data. Let's view this. So we can see that this is actually almost the same customer ID in the customer energy consumption data, but it cannot be found in the customer data because we changed the character and added the underscore 1 here, this character. So the program didn't see this ID in the customer energy consumption in the customer data. So that's how it works. So let's look at the other errors. So we have the service drop data with the customer data. So it checked all the customer IDs in the service drop data and compared it to the customer data. So if we view this one, so we can see that there are two entries here that were not found in the customer data. So if you can see, all of the service drop worksheets were checked. So we have the primary service drop overhead, we have the primary service drop underground, and we have the secondary service drop. So the program reports that these two characters were not found in the customer data. So for this case, this customer ID in the primary service drop underground cannot be found in the customer data, while this customer ID in secondary service drop cannot be found in the customer data. So vice versa, the program will also check customer data with all the corresponding service drop worksheets. It will also find two entries here that cannot be found in the service drop worksheets. So that's how the program checks the data. We also have here service drop with consumption. So let's click this. That's the one we changed, secondary service drop data. The program can't find this customer ID in the customer energy consumption data. In the same way, this ID cannot be found in the service drop data, which can be seen in the customer energy consumption data. Now this one, we can see that there are 109 errors when the program compares the customer data with the load curve data. Remember, we only changed one entry in the load curve data. we changed COM to COM2. So the program sees that there are 109 entries in the customer data with the customer type of COM, but since there is no COM in the load curve data, but only COM2, the program reports that there are 109 customer IDs in the customer data without corresponding customer type in the load curve data. So let's view this there. So you can see that there are COM data and there's also one entry with RES2. We also changed that a while ago, and the program reports that this customer type cannot be found in the load curve data. So next one, the consumption with billing cycle data. So we changed one of the billing cycle of one of the entries in the consumption data. The program says that there's an error on our data. So this one, it compares the customer energy consumption data with the billing cycle data, and it says that the billing cycle or billing period of this entry cannot be found in the billing cycle data because we changed it to 2009-07. Lastly, the from to IDs with the bus data. We click this one. There you go. There's the one that we changed a while ago. We added _1 at the end of the bus ID in the primary line overhead. So it says that this bus ID in the primary line overhead cannot be found in the bus data. So how do we correct these errors? Well, we do it one by one. So if there's error in the customer data with the consumption, then you have to check your data and do the necessary corrections. And you do that on your original data, not on this worksheets. So you have to go back to your data, check what is the possible cause of the error, and do the necessary corrections. So that's basically how you interpret these errors and how you correct your data. So once you correct either one of the errors here, you can just save the data and then run it again to see if the error has been resolved. So again, this is how you interpret the results of the Intersheet check. I hope this will help you in the preparation of your data. Thank you very much.